Hi, I'm Julie Brazil, the town clerk and a town meeting member from Precinct 12. I'd like to explain my request for funding in Article 70. I've been the town clerk for nearly a year, and I've been identifying areas where I think we can improve the clerk's office. One such area has to do with considering whether the clerk's office has the processes and procedures necessary to meet modern state-mandated standards for record keeping and reporting, and how the town might best have visibility into this and confidence that it is being managed properly. One approach to this is to consider converting to an appointed position. However, a proposal to convert from an elected clerk is a substantial change and thus requires informed discussion and agreement before we contemplate any specific action. I do not believe in acting precipitously in matters like this, so rather than asking the select board to recommend to town meeting they put this to the voters immediately, I think we should do the work that allows us to have an informed debate. I'm asking for a study that will give us facts we need to make the decision. I want to touch quickly on the areas I hope to address in a study. We should look at the risks in our current system. We know that other communities have already converted to an appointed clerk, and we can gain insight from their experiences and perspectives, both as to why they did it, whether there were any surprises, and whether the results met their expectations. An example of possible risk comes from our own recent history. If an elected clerk is unable to serve for health reasons, it leaves the office short-handed and potentially without necessary knowledge and experience, and that can require the extra expense of bringing in experienced temporary help. How do you define and measure accountability when you elect someone who has to perform critical legal functions that are not immediately visible to residents? Public events like elections and customer service, like issuing copies of vital records or licenses, are examples where the clerk's office duties can be evaluated by the public. Much of the rest of the underlying function of the office, including maintaining official records for the town, participating in various board processes, and state reporting, are not as transparent, and the demands and complexities of these grow yearly. There is a risk to the town in not having a way to address a deficiency if one is identified, and the current clerk cannot or chooses not to respond. There are a number of areas that are commonly handled in a clerk's office, and every community decides how to meet all those demands. There are communities where the town clerk hires and trains election workers, is the records access officer, or handles business licensing paperwork. In Arlington, these have been assigned to other parts of town government. There are historical reasons for dividing the tasks that way, but it is worthwhile to take the time to look at it and consider if it is still the most efficient way to operate. In particular, with the changes in elections that have come with the recent pandemic, and the fact that the changes are not yet settled into well understood practice, and the enormous focus in the country on the integrity of elections, this area of responsibility will continue to increase in complexity and importance. Voting is a critical element of our democracy, and we cannot afford to let confusion and mishaps cause people to question the legitimacy of our elections. In addition, to the extent that the work of the clerk's office overlaps with other town departments, it is important that these projects and services be managed seamlessly and ideally without duplication. Finally, I think we can consider the skill set that would best meet the demands of a growing Arlington and the town clerk's office in this environment. That does depend on which functions are managed and performed by the clerk. It's easy to say we'd want someone with X years experience as a town clerk, but I'd like us to have a clearer sense of what other backgrounds would best compensate for a relative lack of direct experience if that is not available to us. The process I envision would be a small group to hire and coordinate with a consultant. It would include myself as the current office holder. I recommend the Deputy Town Manager for Operations because he is currently the Records Access Officer, and I think someone on the team should have perspective into work that spans other departments, such as the Assistant Director of IT. We would look at similar communities and how they approach the same set of demands, do interviews with officials and staff at some of them and here in Arlington to understand the history behind our choices and how they compare. I plan to share the results of our study with the Select Board and discuss next steps with them. Thank you.